Bon. Good evening, Professor.
Hi, good evening.
How are you?
Very well, sir. Very well. Can't complain.
Yeah,
Thank you.
good. Hello, everyone.
Hi, good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening, Michael. Good evening, everybody. All right, 7:30. We give them another 3 or 4 minutes and then we get started. Thank you. Won't be long. Excuse me. Okay, let's get the headset set up. Yeah, we're praying and hoping no technical difficulties today and that everything does run smooth and clear. I hope I am clear and I hope everything does run well. Got a long, long night ahead of us, a lot to cover.
Good evening, Mr. Anish.
Hi, good evening, good evening. How are you?
Doing fine, so far so good. So you?
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Sure. Okay, we are ready. We are ready. Let's swing back to where yeah, we've got a few slides to get through here. We've done that, we've done that. We're on slide 18, allo3. Slide 18, allo3. And we are on, we're on page 114. I'll share the link on the Google Notes. Okay, so we left off over here. We've left with the what we call the next stage in this year. So the next stage in our leadership evolution came about the following models, and these were considered the various contingency leadership models. So the situational and contingency models. And a few of the most noted ones out of that there that we want to touch on is Fred Fiedler, Vroom Yeton, and Vroom Jago, Part Goal, House Theory, and then the Hershey-Blanchard situational model. So 4 of those are really a key focus on there. So as you can see over here, we have Fred Fiedler, Hershey-Blanchard situation model, Part Goal, theory and the Vroom-Yetton-Yago decision-making model. So these are the four top of the line that we really need to focus on. So let's kick off first with Fiedler's contingency model. So as the name states, Fred Fiedler believed that through his research that the leadership style was dependent on the situation. And it was a leadership style that was aligned with the situation at hand. And it's formed through one's life experiences. In a way, it's extremely difficult, if not impossible, to change. That's what he believed leadership style was. And he believed that people developed this over time. So based on this assumption, he believed that the right leader must be chosen for the job based on their skill set and the requirements of the situation. So if that situation is going to involve some critical decision making, and you need to make sure that the person will not crack under that pressure and will be able to think clearly and level-headedly in that situation. It depends on the type of situation that you have, and you select the correct employee to be the leader there. So what are the elements of Fred Fiedler's contingency model? Very simple. Leadership style. He developed what was called the LPC scale. We're going to look at the scale in more detail, the least preferred coworker scale. Just pick it up into here. So this is another example that we're going to look at, and this one over here is the leader-member exchange, which is also an offshoot of his theories that has come through, is the leader membership exchange. But let's stick with his one now. So he developed this least preferred coworker scale. So the least preferred coworker scale works on which is the person that you would least like to work with, the person that you actually don't get along with at all, which is the person that you least like to be associated with. It was a scale that was developed on that kind of basis. So if you're a high LPC leader, you are a relationship-oriented leader. If you're a low LPC leader, you're a task-oriented leader. So relationship-oriented leaders are great at building relationships, facilitating team synergy, and managing interpersonal conflict, whereas task-oriented leaders tend to be skilled at organizing projects and teams to accomplish tasks effectively and efficiently. So here are the two styles that he had identified, relationship and task-oriented. So this is using Fiedler's contingency theory of leadership to develop your team management skills and drive teams. And this gives you a good explanation of how to do that. You see, this is the scale, what it looks like. And based on that scale over there, he was then able to develop a scoring. So a little bit complex. It is a little bit complex to carry out, but he ran it and he tested this theory out. And he came up with that theory and he developed that theory. So that's Fred Fiedler's situational model based on the least preferred coworker scale. Two came out of that there, relationship or a task-based. Then we had a Hershey-Blanchard situational leadership model. Now, the Hershey-Blanchard model is very specific in that it suggests no leadership style is better than another. Now, and the other one looked at workplace factors. This one looks at the fact that leaders should adjust their techniques to those they lead and their abilities. Under the model, successful leadership is both task relevant and relationship relevant. They're combining the two now, and they say it is an adaptive and flexible style in which leaders are encouraged to consider their followers, individuals, or a team, and then consider the factors that impact the work environment before choosing how they will lead. So very specific in the distinction. So the Hershey-Blanchard model is clearly stating to not jump the gun, however, to understand the situation and understand the kind of organizational culture that you're dealing with, and then develop a leadership style that matches that organizational culture, and then bring in the task-oriented leadership, chasing goals, chasing deadlines, boom, 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 the rest of it, but marry the two together. So approach the deadlines and the goals, the whole task leadership process under the corporate culture. They believe that you should not come in and try to change the corporate culture and try and achieve these goals. There should be a harmony that will get to that goal. That's what they're looking for, harmony, a synchronization. You see, it is this that gives them a better chance of meeting their goals. So it was developed by author Paul Hershey and leadership expert Clint Blanchard. He's the author of The 1 Minute Manager. The model is not a static leadership style. Instead, it's flexible, wherein the manager adapts their management style to various factors in the workplace. The model suggests the leader provide minimal guidance. By contrast, if the maturity is low, the manager may need to provide explicit direction and supervise work closely to ensure the group has clarity on their goals. So this is what he's talking about. If you find that you have a team that you are leading, the organization that you're leading, the group that you're specifically in charge of, they are self-sufficient, they're self-forcing workers. Bang, you have your meeting, put the instructions up on the board, they move out, they run, they'll deliver. They're highly capable, confident individuals, they're experienced, they work well independently, they have a high maturity level. Then there are another group that we have that they've got the capacity, but they have this fear of failure. And that fear of failure makes them uncertain. So that needs a bit of assurance being put forward. And then you have the ones that have got the capacity, but they're on a go slow and they need to be motivated. So the moderate high majority, you have to assure them they have a fear of failure. Moderate low maturity, they lack motivation. Intrinsic motivation is not there. You've got to supply the motivation. And then low maturity, they're very enthusiastic, but they don't have squat understanding of what they're doing. They don't know which way they're running. They don't know what they are trying to achieve, and they're completely in the dark. But they're very enthusiastic. They're game for anything. So that's going to require all hands on deck. You're going to have to be a hands-on leader, work with them in phases to get through the work and achieve it in batch by batch and develop it. So those are the 4 distinctions there. And based on these here, they develop 4 types of leadership styles. And according to the model, the following styles of leadership managers can use. There is the delegating style, which is a low task, low relationship style in which the leader allows the group to take responsibility for the decision. These are your high maturity followers. Then we have the participating style. So here they lack the confidence. We've got to give them the assurance. And then the selling style, they have the capacity, but they lack the intrinsic motivation. So here we've got to sell it to them, motivate them. And then the telling style, this is the final one, Here we give explicit direction and we supervise the work closely. And this is geared to the last lot, the low maturity followers, highly enthusiastic, but absolutely zero idea of what they're supposed to do. So what we can see is that the Hershey-Blanchard model is one of the most modern and appropriate models, and a very, very current model. We can definitely say in the last 3 decades, this is a model that's pretty much followed in every organization. Most managers adopt to this leadership style. It's one of the most common styles that commonly come into place, and this is being able to categorize it and create a theory around it. So the Hershey-Blanchard model is accepted. That's standard how managers operate. They assess the situation, they understand it. Now, an important point of Hershey-Blanchard model is if it's not followed, the result will be conflict. That's an important point to understand. It's a very fundamental part of this research study that they carried out, is that if you want to reverse engineer conflict in the workplace, go into your leadership style and you will find that the manager has not followed a Hershey-Blanchard style of leadership, one of those 4 categories. And they have not correctly evaluated the situation, the capacity. So let's break that down a little bit better. So you have the first one. Let's take the first level. We have the high maturity, highly capable, confident individuals. They experience, they work well independently. The manager guesses that wrong, goes in for micromanagement. Now he wants to follow what the bottom group is doing. He's going to stand there, tell them what to do. He wants to oversee it. He wants to run everything. That's a huge rub up, and that's a big clash. Big clash. You create conflict. You're not going to produce results. You're going to have minimal work done because you've not understood the situation and you've not ready correctly as a leader. On the other hand, you do the opposite with the bottom 4 group and you give them carte blanche and they make an utter mess and an utter disaster. And now you want to fire everyone, and now you've got this whole hostile force on you that says, you just gave us the work. Nobody came in and managed us and saw what we were doing. So what we thought was right, we did. So when you have conflict, go to a root cause, and you probably find that the manager or the leader has incorrectly evaluated or assessed the culture around it. And misunderstood the team. And that is where the huge clash comes in. Now, I've seen some phenomenal managers and I've seen some very bad managers. I've seen some phenomenal managers that have come in new into a place and very rapidly able to read the situation and able to distinguish in the team and separate and know, right, high maturity, bang, there's your task. Can you get that sorted out for me? What's your deadline? When can you email me this? I need this done. No problem. We'll get it done. Bang, bang, sort the date out. They're out, gone. Then tackle a separate group, micromanage. You need to look after them. You need to manage them. They're able to separate the groups very fast. They can read a room very fast, very quickly, come up with it. And within 1 or 2 early projects, they've already evaluated, they know where they're standing. 1 or 2 might move either up or down, but they're very fast at it. And then you have others who, as we're saying, are very poor. They do not possess the people skills that are required to be a leader. And they are guessing the room wrong. And the only thing they want to do is please the management at the top to show that they are producing results. And how they get those results, they not cared. They only know that it's for themselves. What's in it for me? And that attitude over there is actually the wrong attitude to have as a leader. And that's when you start seeing all these misjudgments. And a lot of the times, the conflict that arises, you can trace it back. Okay, so Hershey-Blanchard model, very important, big one. That's a big model. Yeah, there's a few advantages, disadvantages behind it. Michael, shoot. Chat to me.
Sorry, quick one. The Hershey-Blanchard model, is it a leadership model or is that a change management model? It's
No,
a
no,
leadership
no.
model, right?
Leadership model. Leadership
Yeah,
model.
okay. Yeah, I just wanted to
Leadership model.
confirm
We're still getting to change management models. It's our next module. We will get into change management, but no, the
I'm just
Hershey-Blanchard.
following through with the assignment brief, so I'm just trying to read through and also just listen to the.
Yeah.
Sorry, okay. Thanks.
No stress at all there. We're on this number 4.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks.
We're on the number 4 over here. That's where we are. I'll just highlight it for now. That's the one that we're chasing. This one we'll tackle next week. I'll just pull this one into a different color for now. We'll tackle that one next week. We're chasing number 4 here. Okay, fantastic. So remember Hershey-Blanchard model. You can make notes on that there. So you have to understand the situation that we are facing in COVID. And as we're going through, as Michael is saying, you should have that kind of situational frame that you're in. And now start picking these up in your mind and saying, would that actually work? What was happening there? What was going on there? As you're listening, you're starting to tick off. Now, that one doesn't work, doesn't suit the situation. So as you're going through, and then what I've done is, so I'm going to help out a little bit with that question. I hope I can remember where I posted it, but hang on a second. So what I've done is, as we get through to the bottom of this list, as we're running through here, yeah, we've got a few to chase down. I think right at the bottom of the list, I've brought in some examples of what we should be looking for at the COVID situation. Let's just see if I can remember where I put it. Okay, I have got some examples of that there in here where we can have a look exactly as to what as we're going through. I've got exact examples for that assignment, which will show us what was going on at COVID and what would be the best style to take on there. There is a good run in here, but I'll find it as we're going through. I know I've set it up over here. Yeah. Okay. So what I've done is on page 127, as we're working our way down, we'll come into these ones over here, Michael, and I've created these links, which will give you specifically some sort of guidance towards this question. This question 4 here, we're going to go into it in detail, but this will help you answer and give you some links and some idea to read. What good leadership look like during the pandemic, leadership in a crisis, exploring leadership strategies in the COVID pandemic, leadership styles in COVID-19, 5 ways the COVID pandemic is changing the role of leaders. So let's just change through these models over here, and then we'll kick into that. We will get started into that one. I've got that on the line there. I'm going to get to it. Okay, so the next one is the path goal theory, developed by Robert House, and it has its roots in the expectancy theory of motivation. So here the leader helps group members in attaining rewards by clarifying the paths to the goals and removing obstacles to perform. So House's theory in a way advocates servant leadership. And here he believes that a leader would act as a coach and a facilitator. So according to House's path goal theory, a leadership's effectiveness depends on several employee and environmental contingent factors and certain leadership styles. So the employee contingencies that they have, the skills and the experience, the leader effectiveness, there's employee motivation, employee satisfaction, and leader acceptance. And then there are environmental contingencies as well, task structure and team dynamics. And then obviously at the top, we have the leader behaviors: directive, supportive, participative, and achievement oriented. So this was basically the framework that he had. And the 4 leadership styles here are directive. Here the leader provides guidelines, lets the people know what is expected of them. He sets a performance standards for them, and he controls behavior when performance standards are not met. So they make use of rewards and disciplinary action. Following on from that one with the rat, that famous experiment with the rat that started off, and that reward theory. Then there is the supportive leadership style. The leader is friendly towards subordinates and displays personal concern for their needs, welfare, and well-being. Very people-oriented leader. Then a participative leader. Here they believe in group decision-making, and they share information with the subordinates, and they consult them on important decisions. And then achievement-oriented, the leader sets challenging goals and encourages employees to reach their peak performance. So according to the theory, these leadership styles are not mutually exclusive as well, and leaders can maneuver between each of them. So the contingency behind this is that the theory then states that each of these styles will be effective in some situations, but not in others. So we're studying the contingency type of leadership theory, and that's where it leans to, that it's, again, a situational model. So some of those situations include an employee's characteristics, their locus of control, their experience, their perceived ability, satisfaction, willingness to leave the organization, and anxiety. When we talk of the environment, the work environment, employees performing simple and routine tasks, a supportive style is much more effective than a directive one. Similarly, a participative style will work much better for non-routine tasks than routine ones. So team dynamics. It has been subjected to empirical testing. In other words, several researchers tested this scientifically and have proved it. And so it's received considerable research support. And the theory constantly reminds the leaders that their main role as a leader is to assist subordinates in defining their goals, and then to assist them in accomplishing those goals in the most efficient and effective manner. So again, what are we at? Okay, let's listen to it. It's a good one. I know it's a little bit long. Let's listen to it. I'll cut down on one of the other ones. It's a good one. Let's get it. Oh no. Why am I? Okay.
Not born to lead. They acquire their expertise through experience and learning. So in this video, I want to look at some of the principles of leadership development. Some people may learn about leadership at an early enough stage in their lives to make it look like they were born to lead. However, leadership development, whether deliberate or otherwise, is the way that anyone can learn to lead. But here's the thing. An organization can't develop leaders, and nor can trainers, or coaches, or leadership guides. All that they can do is make available the training, the materials, the resources, the opportunities, and the context in which leaders can develop themselves. And there are 4 main ways that they can do this: acquiring knowledge, coaching and mentoring, practicing leadership, and getting feedback. Let's start with acquiring knowledge. Leadership development usually includes training, although training alone can never fully develop a leader. However, what would I expect to see in the training part of a leadership development program? Technical skills, job, role, and functional related skills. Soft skills, interpersonal skills, communication skills, call them what you will, dealing with people. Managerial and delegating skills, the craft of getting people to do the work. Analytical, creative, and decision-making skills that solve problems and trigger the next step. Political skills, working through the network within your organization and across your industry. And finally, business acumen, understanding the big picture of what's going on, again, in your organization, in your industry, but also in the commercial environment as a whole. Most of this learning will, of course, take place outside of the context of a leader's job. So let's look next at what happens on the margins of their job. Coaching and mentoring. I'll be doing dedicated videos about both coaching and mentoring. In essence, however, a mentor works with a person to help them to understand their experiences and challenges and to solve the problem they face through the experience of the mentor. Mentors tend to bring experience to a relationship. It may be task or role or technical experience, or it may be positional or industry-based experience, or it might be general experience of life itself. But the essence of a mentoring role is to teach what you know. A coach, on the other hand, listens to the aspiring leader's challenges and problems. They ask them questions which prompt the leader to think of their own solutions, their own ideas, their own resolutions. A coach is good at prompting thought, increasing awareness, and helping the emerging leader to take responsibility for their own choices. Of course, in reality, we don't just find coaches and mentors operating at one or the other extreme end of a spectrum of styles of coaching and mentoring. The reality is that most coaches and mentors operate somewhere in the fuzzy middle, maybe towards one end, maybe towards another. A good coach, mentor, may well choose to deploy some mentoring and some coaching according to the needs of the learner. If coaching and mentoring takes place on the margins of a leader's job, can they also gain leadership development experience on the job? The answer, of course, is yes. Practicing leadership. The best leadership development is when the aspiring leader gets a chance to take their experience, their knowledge, their coaching and their mentoring into the real world and give it a spin, to test it out against reality and to find out what their style, what their learning really means in the real world. To make this happen, many organizations have programs that set aspiring leaders real challenges. These might be in the form of an interim leadership role, or leading projects or other initiatives, taking on voluntary roles that involve leadership, or indeed leadership simulations, not actually in the real world, but simulating the real world in a way that feels real to the leader at the time. Whatever the real world leadership experiences you get, the next element is crucial. Getting feedback. Critical to the success of any leadership development opportunity is good quality feedback. Aspiring leaders need objective, accurate and complete feedback on their performance, from which they can understand what they have done and learn from it. Feedback is so important in the world of management and leadership that I have a whole course on that, on management courses. I'll put a link in the description. Are there any other leadership development interventions? Yes, of course there are. There are things like work shadowing, coaching and mentoring others, and leadership games that are constructed to give a leader opportunities to try out different things. All of these can be wrapped together into a leadership development program. These start with
Okay. So that was up to where I wanted to go. Now, if we combine this with what we're studying earlier on in terms of recruitment strategies and human resource and strategic human resource management and developing these programs, we can see now how intricate a process it is and how complex a process it is and what is required in this whole process. It's not just getting someone to come and present a course, send the guy for the course, bring the guy back from the course, bang, you're a leader, done. It doesn't work that way. We can see that clearly. And how those programs are constructed, which you was getting into next night, Monica, is very critical, because the construct of the program will dictate the type of leadership that you're going to have. And definitely, as he says, there are certain technical, there are certain specific skills-based training that is required. Those need to be performed, completed. Then there needs to be a type of mentoring set in place. So within the organization, a mentor has to be selected, and that mentor will oversee this person's development, the employee's development. And then the next step is to start shadowing, shadow boxing, shadow. You're going to shadow an actual leader, and you're going to understand and look at how they are managing the projects, how they are running, how they're managing staff, what they're looking for, how they communicate, their language, top communication, bottom communication. They start understanding and absorbing that there. So that's the next step in the program, is that still under the mentorship, they start shadowing and they start developing and understanding pros and cons, what they like, what they don't like. This is the individualistic part that comes into play. Then there needs to be a type of project or a type of situation that will encompass a play box, a sandbox. Oh, where am I? We need a sandbox. Now, a sandbox, if you go back to childhood, then you remember a sandbox is what you develop and you put the children inside there and they can play safely in that sandbox. No matter how big it is, you get to some big outdoor parks, they have a large one and it's sealed up. Godfather. All right. So a sandbox, and they can play safely in that. So the same concept is applied over here, is that we allow the room to fail. That's the concept over here, that you've got to have the room to fail. They have to fail in order to succeed. They have to understand where they went wrong, where their mistakes were, and then under the mentorship, work towards solving those key issues. But remember, at all times, they are developing. Then to bring them in to an independent project where they now are challenged. So a leadership development program would typically take 2 years to run. The time frame that should be set for that should be at 2 years. That's standard. What we are looking at is 2 years to complete a leadership development program, and bring them to that situation where they confidently able to manage and handle situations independently. So you see these titles, these job titles. So here we go. So your first level would be as an associate manager. An associate manager, as they say, they tackle the more redundant tasks, the mundane tasks, the daily tasks, everyday running tasks. They get to cut their teeth, so to say, as an associate. Then they step up to the assistant role to become an assistant manager. And then successfully completing a stint as an assistant manager, maybe a 1 year or a 2 year program, then sets them up to be a manager. So there needs to be a definite pathway to it. It's not that we put them through a training and then take them and say, you're now manager. That's a huge sinkhole. They're just going to fall into that sinkhole and disappear down there. So these are the steps in developing them as a leader and bringing them up to that position over there. Is yes, training is required, but skills training, very specific training to develop certain skills, technical skills, soft skills, those kind of trainings need to come into place. Appointing a mentor, bring a mentor into place. Then from the mentorship, go to shadowing. They shadow to see how the processes are run. Then come into this kind of an associate manager role, which has the room to fail, make mistakes, whatever. They're not critical roles. Then from there, step up to an assistant manager where they're now handling challenging cases, challenging tasks. They no more got this guardrails around them. The safety wheels are off. They're now on their own. And then from there to a manager post. So in total, to take an individual to a manager post should take them between 3 to 4 years to develop up to be a confident and successful manager. It takes about 3 or 4 years worth of maneuvering through this process to get to that point. Okay, now we go to the contemporary leadership theory. So that was the contingency leadership theory. We're now looking at the contemporary leadership theory. And this is, as it says, contemporary. Contemporary leadership theory has come in as the new era of leadership theories, and that's involved now into the 90s in the last 3 decades. Can't believe we're saying that already, last 3 decades. So these include the following theories. There's a whole lineup over here of theories, and we've got transformational, transactional, participative, charismatic, power and influence, complexity, authentic leadership. We looked at that one under Nike. When you look at Nike, we're looking at an authentic leadership theory, servant leadership theory, and then LMX theory. All right, so as I said, we are here at the COVID situation based on the assignment. These are excellent resources that are going to help you with that question. World Economic Forum, 5 ways the COVID-19 pandemic is changing the role of leaders. Very good read. You can listen to the article as well. So plug it on your phone, and as you're getting to work, let it play. Nice way to kickstart your day off with some homework. Here are 5 ways that the leader can reframe their approach in a post-pandemic world. So the individual as a whole, employees' work persona is not just part of their wider life experience, embedded deeply within the community and wider society. So leaders need to shift their mindset to acknowledge that employees' experiences go beyond work. So they need to focus on designing holistic policy structures and systems that are fluid and contextual. And you can go through those ones there. The leader is a sociologist. Check that out as well. Psychological safety, well-being and motivation, and equitable experiences and insight over data. So organizations have access to plenty of data, but they still lack insight when it comes to valuing intangible assets such as reputation, human capital, and intellectual property. So you need to look at how you're going to use that data to measure them. So that was one. Here's another one. Leadership styles and COVID-19. They will all give you good reading. Good reading for that assignment question, starting to give you a lot more of a framed idea around it. The author is Vinod H. Ramatur. He's a Harvard MBA graduate. And he's looked at this within the Caribbean context, given an excellent article over here that you can even use as a reference over here. It's a good paper. Can go and actually find the actual paper if you want. But he's done an in-depth research study. We're going into these now, and you're going to look at those there and see, as per this one over here, what's the best style. Let's look at another one. So I've got a few over here, as I said, and they will all help you to get a better understanding of what's looking at there. So this is another paper, because you need Harvard references right the way through. You need journal articles. You can use this. There's it, Open Journal Leadership, Volume 13, Number 1, March 2024. And you can get it in a PDF as well. So I'm guessing everyone knows how to use, I'm deviating for 2 minutes, but quickly with regard to that then. Let's just take, just going to take his first sentence over here. Okay, let's say you've got that sentence and you need to add a Harvard reference. Sorry, I'm deviating, but while I'm on it, let's fire off. Do you know how to use your Word document for your Harvard reference? So you come up over here on the top of your lunch bar, and you've got File, Home, Insert, Draw, Design, Layout. You have References. You click on References. It'll then give you the style. You need to select Harvard. If your version of Word does not have Harvard, then you need to get an IT guy to show you how to download the Harvard resource from the net, from Microsoft Online, and add it into here. You'll need someone to help you with that. So we got Harvard. We go to add, we'll go here, cancel. We go insert citation, add a new source, journal article. So we come back up over here and we pick him up over here. B.S. Lukyamuzi. BS Lukya Musi. BS Lukya Musi for the rest of my life. Okay, then we'll go to his title of his paper, which was Exploring Leadership Strategies in the COVID-19 Pandemic. And then the journal name is Open Journal of Leadership. Journal Leadership. And then we got year, volume, and issue. It is somewhere over here, I saw it. Oh, yeah. Volume 13, issue 1, 2024. 2024, volume 13, issue 1. And then the page numbers are given down over here at the citation, 39 to 53. 39 to 53. And we press OK. And there's my Harvard reference done. My Harvard reference is done. Now, the advantage of this is that when we're doing a big paper and you have 40 or 50 Harvard references, is that when it comes to the end, you then have to insert your references at the end. So when we have to insert our references, we go over here and the list of references will come up there. It's got the full thing over here. And then as I'm adding on, I keep adding on over here, and it will automatically build up my library over here, where at the end I can insert it. So that's how to do Harvard referencing online, not online, with the Word document. And then if you need further help, you can also use this website. It's called Cite This For Me. It runs the Harvard citation for you. So if you're battling to develop your citation, you can't find information, or you're battling to understand what goes into which block, go to this one over here. Cite This For Me. It does for you your Harvard referencing there. Okay, so this is another good journal article over here. And you can go through this over here to see the best leadership style over here as well. Okay, where were we? Right, then this one over here is another one from McKinsey and Company. There's a lot of good articles that comes out from McKinsey. Leadership in a Crisis, Responding to the Coronavirus Outbreak and Future Challenges. So that's got the date of their March 16, 2020. And these are 5 leadership practices that can help you to respond effectively. And it will give you a lot of details on that article. They're good resources. They really are good resources. What good leadership looks like during the pandemic. The Prime Minister of New Zealand was definitely a standout. So this is an excellent article from Harvard. They've also got a book out, Coronavirus Leadership and Recovery. You can search for that book online and then go through that book as well, see some chapters from there as well. It's also a good resource. So yes, there are some resources here for you. If you want, I'll add them together on the weekly email as well to remind you that you have them as well. All right. All right, let's get through with it now. Let's get into the slides here, and then we can just see where we are. So we picked up on these ones over here. The next one that we haven't done on was the Vroom-Yetton. So the Vroom-Yetton-Yago model, they based on 2 aspects of a leadership's decision, quality and acceptance. and they came up with 5 management decision styles. Autocratic, we know that the leader solves the problem, the leader obtains the information, but they decide on the solution on their own. Consultative, a little bit democratic, they discuss, work with their group, and develop a solution. And then the group, this is now totally democratic. They're not just consulting for advice, but the entire group is working together on resolving that problem. We looked at Part Goal, we looked at Hershey-Blanchard model. Okay, here's another one. Tannenbaum and Schmidt, continuum of leadership. So a very old model. The Tannenbaum and Schmidt leadership model is coming out from the 60s, way back, 1958. And this was written in 69 that he wrote this article down. So you sit back and you say, okay, we've been through all of them. How does these two guys pitch up right at the top end of the list? Well, there's still some relevance around their whole setup. And they had used this, what they called a continuum or scale. And they came up with an understanding that all 7 leadership styles are prominent within a person. They have the telling style, the selling style, the suggesting style, the consulting style, the joining style, the delegating style, and the abdicating style as well. So we understand most of these over here, they're pretty much straightforward based on their meaning. The only new one that we have over here is abdication. So this year, leader abdicates the responsibilities and lets the employees run the company with them as mere figurehead. And then they quickly lose respect both within the company and with business rivals. So they just their name, but they don't actually oversee anything. Now, if you look at Richard Branson was a good example. He sold Virgin Records in 1992 to save his airline. And he took a decision there and he moved on with it. So that's one. Let's look at why we say the model captures the interrelation between managerial authority and team autonomy. The approach is both viable and non-viable modes of management. On the other hand, it can lean strictly into one style. It might not show clearly that the leader displays all 7 leadership characteristics. Now, in addition to those they also identified the pressures of leadership. 3 pressures that came on: situational pressure, psychological pressure, and pressure from below. So situational pressure obviously depends on the environment, your competitors, economy, all that. Psychological pressure is the big one. Self-doubt. Did I do this right? Didn't I do that right? Am I getting this wrong? Am I doing the right thing? That's self-doubt, unable to have that inner confidence, is a big pressure. And then pressure from below, where it's not really pressure from the top, it's pressure from below, where the employees are demanding direction. They're wanting a need for decisions. When that kind of situation is happening, you have a leadership problem. So some good examples out of here as well. So here it is. So why does it still remain useful? Well, it can be useful at the expansion stages of a startup, when CEOs and founders are just getting their whole corporate organization and corporate funding statements going. It can also be useful as an analytical tool, a way of identifying common features of companies, particularly industries or sectors. And then now, as we are showing it as a teaching aid, it's a useful way of illustrating the complexity of decision making in a corporate setting, as well as the pressures that leaders face when deciding how to fully engage the subordinates in the process. So that is Tannenbaum and Schmidt Continuum of Leadership. All right, let's take our break. And we're not bad. We're at slide 24. We're starting up here, transformational. We're going to hit these lot here now. So we're really going in depth into leader. Okay, 15-minute break. Back at 8:45. Thank you. Okay, so we're on the next one, which are the contemporary approaches to leadership. We have transformational, transactional, charismatic, servant, empowered, and responsible leadership. Let's get started into this lot. How many do we have here? Plus 24, small class. Okay. So transactional leadership, pretty much again, following through from its title, it's a transaction. Like when you want to buy something, you go to a shop, you choose to buy a product. What do? You pay for it. So it's the same with transactional leadership style. It's an exchange system. So it's a set of rewards and penalties. If you do well, you're rewarded. If you do poorly and you do not perform well, then you have a penalty or punishment. So what's important over here is this leadership style works best during crisis management. Remember our assignment, we're looking at a big crisis there, COVID, the COVID pandemic. So a transactional leadership style is suited to crisis management. So the big one that you're going to look at is transactional leadership style. The leadership style does lack creativity and problem-solving skills. So it creates quite a bit of rigidity and inflexibility in organization. However, what it does emphasize is supervision, organization, and methodical approaches. So given that type of situation, a crisis management situation, that's what you need. You need that rigidity, you need that supervision, and you need that methodical approach, that things have got to follow suit. They've got to follow a pattern. To bring order and organization to chaos, you have to go into this kind of approach so that things are not just haphazardly happening. Once you've developed and established that, and that is working, slowly you can look at bringing in a bit more creativity and a little bit of problem solving into it. But by and large, transactional leaders are very much involved in these crisis situations. Take typical examples, floods. You have a disaster manager comes into a situation with a flood. They have got to have bang. You follow the rule. You step out of line, bang. There's a way to handle that. You succeed, you hand the guy more responsibilities, you reward the guy. So these are kind of the situations where they become very well, where they have a lot of practical application. So it was first introduced by Max Weber in 1947 all the way back. And it's also had an earlier version known as the rational legal leadership. So what are the characteristics of this transactional leadership style? It's an extrinsic motivation and contingent reward. So it's again using incentives to inspire employees and reprimand them for poor performance. It follows strict policies, guidelines, rules, and regulations. Resistant to change. So these leadership styles are not open to innovation, change, or transformation. They tend to think inside the box to solve problems. Hence, great for routine affairs, but not great for creative solutions. Transactional leaders provide constructive feedback for each employee and their performance. They focus on maintaining the status quo. They're in a situation, there is a crisis. They pay close attention to details, deviations, irregularities, and mistakes. So the leadership style is suited to a short-term goal. So if you take that the crisis is a transitional phase and the organization will get over it, then to manage that transitional phase, transactional leadership style works well. As I say, it brings order to chaos. So some advantages of this here, obviously, achievable short-term goals, crisis management, clear structure and productivity and cost. They are not change leaders. The disadvantage, obviously, it will discourage innovation. It will discourage independent thinking. And there's no scope for further development, but you've got to understand it's managing a crisis. So you can't have all these things mixed with that as well. We also have what we discussed earlier, the theory X, theory Y leadership. So the theory X, the autocratic theory X, which believes that, theory X believes that employees are not self-motivated. Employees hate their work. Employees do not like doing the work. So they need to be motivated by either punishment, you don't do that, you're fired, or you do this, I'll give you this. Theory X. So transactional leadership follows the theory X philosophy. It can have a positive or a negative effect on employee performance. But what's important is that you will always find transactional leaders are very direct, very transparent. And they cut out a bias among employees. Employees get a clear sense of direction, what is required from them. And in that instance, you would find that they reward, you see, traits like these help to create harmony and success. Let's highlight this. Let's choose a nice color for this one. And now we need that brighter. We need this brighter. Yeah. And let's take this up to blue and bold. All right, now you won't miss that. Traits like these help to create harmony and success in the organization. Clear goals, motivation, and rewards help boost employee performance. Transactional leaders can also be incredibly efficient in times of crisis, such as the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay. Well, yeah, you can go through pros and cons of this. As I say, it is a crisis management style. And I find a lot of these discussions around it are confusing. The situation around which it works in. Yes, if it's not a crisis management situation, then you cannot call it a transactional leadership style. It's falling onto an autocratic leadership style. You can say there are traits of transactional in it, but it's going to be leaning to an autocratic. There are various places where these work. There are good examples of this. So some good examples of these type of leaders is Elon Musk and Zhang Alibaba. Alibaba, that whole online thing. Bill Gates is another big one. He's a good example of a transactional leader. He's not adaptive to communication and employee engagement. He visits them, asks challenging questions, and he keeps asking until he's satisfied. And some even refer to him to be dismissive of others' ideas. Then Vince Lombardi, he's a top NFL, the American football coach. Howard Schultz, the Starbucks CEO, the big Howard Schultz, the big Starbucks organization. So how does transactional style compare to transformational? So you see what I said. The authoritative leadership style, also known as an autocratic leadership style, it resembles the transactional styles. Authoritative leaders are rigid, strict, and self-centered. transactional leaders aren't as rigid. The authoritative leaders don't believe in any kind of motivation. A transactional leader uses motivation as a tool. So those are the key differences. And then we have transactional versus charismatic. In charismatic, they use their personality. Think of Mahatma Gandhi. Think of Barack Obama. All these top leaders, they use their personality to motivate people. Transactional uses rewards and punishment. Big difference. So the next one is transformational leadership. Transformational leaders inspire and motivate employees to build a creative work culture. In transformational leadership theory, leaders help successfully transform employees. They make employees ready to respond to any uncertainty with innovation and courage. So transformational leaders are good change management leaders. They drive innovation. They are good at adapting their style to whatever the situation is around them. And here are some good examples of transformational leaders. Steve Jobs, Apple. Nelson Mandela, the South African apartheid anti-revolutionary statesman. Jeff Bezos in Amazon. Rockefeller, the Rockefeller Empire. Reed Hastings. He's the chairman of Netflix. So he's the founder, co-founder, chairman, and chief executive officer of Netflix. So your transformational leadership model was started by Downtown in 1973. The idea was then expanded by McGregor Burns in 1978. And in 1985, Bernard M. Bass further developed the concept. So transformational leadership is measured through the multi-factor leadership questionnaire. And it's a survey that identifies different leadership characteristics. So if you're going to do a research study, you can use this type of scale. Multi-factor leadership questionnaire. Okay, it's quite a costly thing, but you can buy it and test and use it. So there's a current version of it, MLQ5X. See if we can pick up multi-factor leadership questionnaire. Hi, Michael, chat with me while I'm typing.
There's a question in the chat box. Maybe you just want to elaborate on that and just give some of your insights.
I will. I'll follow through with that there. Wait. No. Oh, dear me. Do we have to go down this road? I'll probably get myself in serious deep water if I go down this road. I'm going to take the Fifth Amendment, part of the American, and take the Fifth Amendment and plead no comment. I'm going to take the Fifth Amendment and go no comment. As a South African, with the drama that's currently happening out there, it's really challenging. I did listen to a very, very lengthy lecture given by a professor at one of the top universities last week, an in-depth one on the overall leadership structure, not just him, but looking at the overall leadership structure and the type of leadership structure that's based there overall. And that was very, very interesting, very long, but very in-depth, very analysis-based. Fundamentally, the fascists, the right-wing factions, have always been funded. They always receive funding, but the billionaires that fund them remain in the background. They don't come into the main picture. However, what we are fundamentally seeing now is a complete role reversal where the billionaires are taking center stage. The ones that are funding at the background are now standing up and saying, it's me. I'm here. And we're into this age that we're going to see them coming to a great deal of power. I think not just based here, the world's greatest powerhouse, but across the world. We're seeing it rampantly coming through Europe as well. And I think it's going to continue to spread throughout the world. And they're definitely going to assert their power, assert themselves, and achieve things that are going to benefit them. I think the ordinary man is in for many years of difficulty, many years of hardship, and the amazing factor of this type of leadership is that it will pull the wool over the eyes, so to say. It leans very strongly on a charismatic leadership. They believe in the leader. Ultimately, it's a charismatic leader. They don't see the autocratic, authoritative. They don't see all that there. They see the charisma. And then that's the attraction behind Donald Trump, Elon Musk, the rest of the gang that we're in there. It's a charismatic leadership. It's its particular way that they run this. And you find that charismatic leadership is very strong in the political sphere. And they drive this type of leadership style where their followers are fanatical. They absolutely believe and absorb the philosophy that's being passed on to them without looking at pros and cons of that there. So yes, some very challenging times coming ahead. The lecture definitely identified that clearly, looking right through the ages, right from Napoleon all the way up to Hitler, looking at all the ages that we've gone through, all the dictators. Definitely the financing behind it always remained at the background, but now coming to the fore. By standing up and asserting that power, there's a lot of challenging times coming ahead. But I'll plead the fifth as much as I can and step back from that. Thank you, Michael. No, I'm going to step away. It's a very challenging question. Very, very, very challenging question. And given our South African situation at the moment, yeah, very challenging, a lot going on. Yeah, you can get into it over here and find some more examples of the multi-leadership questionnaire. In here, check around for that there. So that's how you measure transformational leaders. The leadership style has a model that consists of 4 over here: inspirational motivation, intellectual stimulation, idealized influence, individualized consideration. So idealized influence is a big part of what Donald Trump leads on. Idealized influence, it's that type of leadership behavior where it helps followers to view them as role models. So not saying that he's a transformational leader, but he does drive this idealized influence. Yeah, I'm not sure. He definitely is falling into that category of understand the moral consequences. So here you have individualized consideration, intellectual stimulation, and inspirational motivation. 5 of the characteristics of them are interpersonal skills. They have strong interpersonal skills. which include things like communication skills. They're non-judgmental. They're very supportive, very creative, very innovative, very adaptable to situation. Most importantly, transformational leaders have a great deal of curiosity, and they look for innovation. Their curiosity is what drives innovation. They are risk takers. They have a big risk appetite. So those are the big benefits of this leadership style. And importantly is that it follows the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which satisfies each of the needs, going through from a physiological level to a safety level to a social to self-esteem to self-actualization. Okay, let's get into the slides over here. So we've seen transformation, transactional, the advantages, the disadvantages, the key differences between them here. And then now we're into charismatic leadership. So let's just take the video. Oh, skip it, it's a small one. Charismatic leaders focus on leaders themselves. It's an ability to communicate, influence, and be comfortable in their own skin. Charisma is a process, a quality that requires transforming visions into a reality. And it's a communication skills to persuade employees and keep them engaged during a crisis. If you're a charismatic leader, you will help your organization move forward while it is struggling to pursue progress. These include very specific items, very specific characteristics, listening skills, communication, maturity, humility, substance, confidence, and body language. So in comparison to other leadership styles, it focuses on a leader's personality and actions, not the process or the structure. Naimani, chat with me. Hi, Naimani.
Yeah, hi. I was in mute. Thanks. This charismatic or charismatic leadership, they may need to have an influential to staff to trust, because it may be on opposite side to staff if they lose trust, even though the leader is charismatic.
No, they definitely drive trust within the organization, but at the same time, as you say, they can also drive distrust because people believe them to be hot air. It's all talk but no action, because they're not involved in structures and all that. There's a lot of lieutenants that do the work for them, but they tend to be a lot of hot air. That's for sure. And the initial the razzle dazzle disappears, and then staff start to see through this, and they lose that trust over. So yes, definitely. So pros: charismatic leaders motivate and inspire the workforce. They encourage the importance of camaraderie, collaboration, and teamwork. They create a sense of positive change. The negatives: they can display narcissism, which very quickly comes to the fore. It's only about them. And they shift the focus on the people to themselves. You see where I say that the guy is showing very strong tendencies of a charismatic leader. They become self-serving, and they're often viewed as shallow or disingenuous. So we're seeing a lot of those characteristics forming now in the president. So these are some of the characteristic leaders. Look at communication. You have Mahatma Gandhi. With maturity, you have another one out here. I can't remember his name. Humility, Mother Teresa. Substance, we have Steve Jobs. Confidence of Martin Luther King. Border Language, Muhammad Ali. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Ex-President Ronald Reagan. So there are some benefits. They can, in this time of crisis, you need a good PRO, a good public relations expert. And a good public relations expert is a charismatic leader. They can step up at that situation and create the magician smoke where the people will now focus on them. So you need a top PRO, and a top PRO for the organization is a charismatic leader. Okay, there is a few there. Then the next style is the modern one, which is the servant leader. Now, the servant leadership was coined by Robert Greenfield when he first published his 1970 essay, The Servant as a Leader. So servant leadership is not a checklist to follow. Here, leaders must be sincere to practice this leadership style. And it must start by asking themselves why they want to be servant leaders. Now, Simon Sinek is a leadership guru. And if you are on LinkedIn, you're welcome to join me. You can look for me on there, find me and join me on LinkedIn, no problem. Simon Sinek is a good one to follow. You'll find him on LinkedIn over here. See, I'm following him. He's a big TED Talk speaker, a big leadership guru. Nice to listen to quite a few of his podcasts. We're going to listen to one of them now. And his big point is on here on servant leadership. So I have the full length, which we can't do in class. That is 20 minutes. I advise you on your own to listen to that. We're going to watch the shortened version of 5 minutes. But the full version of it is 20 minutes on this one. And as I say, I'm going to play the 5-minute one. Okay, Simon Sinek, there's a lot. There's a lot on Simon Sinek. I have one of the students that's way ahead of you guys, just started his dissertation. He's taken this as a topic. So he's investigating the influence of Simon Sinek leadership styles in leadership in what are those mega projects in Saudi Arabia called? The mega projects in Saudi Arabia. They call gig projects, the giga projects. So he's looking at investigating the influence of Simon Sinek leadership styles in leaders in the giga projects in Saudi Arabia. Excellent research paper. He's got a lot of work to do, but he's already on it and he's moving with it. Okay, let's get started here.
Circle. Circle. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do, 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? And why should anyone care? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing.
Take 1 minute. Why do you get out of bed in the morning? Take 1 minute. Just play with that in your mind. Give you 1 minute to go back to it. Why do you get out of bed in the morning? What gets you out of bed? Don't have to write it. It's just your personal thought. Just think about it. What gets you out of bed? What motivates you to wake up and get out of bed?
To the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done, that's how most sales is done, and that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do, we say how we're different or how we're better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You're ready to buy a computer from me. All I did was reverse the order of the information. What it proves to us is that people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This explains why every single person in this room is perfectly comfortable buying a computer from Apple. But we're also perfectly comfortable buying an MP3 player from Apple, or a phone from Apple, or a DVR from Apple. But as I said before, Apple's just a computer company. There's nothing that distinguishes them structurally from any of their competitors. Their competitors are all equally qualified to make all of these products. In fact, they tried. A few years ago, Gateway came out with flat screen TVs. They're eminently qualified to make flat screen TVs. They've been making flat screen monitors for years. Nobody bought one. And Dell came out with MP3 players and PDAs. And they make great quality products, and they can make perfectly well-designed products, and nobody bought one. In fact, talking about it now, we can't even imagine buying an MP3 player from Dell. Why would you buy an MP3 player from a computer company? But we do it every day. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. The goal is not to do business with everybody who needs what you have. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe. Here's the best part. None of what I'm telling you is my opinion. It's all grounded in the tenets of biology, not psychology, biology. If you look at a cross-section of the human brain, looking from the top down, what you see is the human brain is actually broken into three major components that correlate perfectly with the golden circle. Our newest brain, our Homo sapien brain, our neocortex, corresponds with the what level. The neocortex is responsible for all of our rational and analytical thought and language. The middle two sections make up our limbic brains, and our limbic brains are responsible for all of our feelings, like trust and loyalty. It's also responsible for all human behavior, all decision-making, and it has no capacity for language. In other words, when we communicate from the outside in, yes, people can understand vast amounts of complicated information like features and benefits and facts and figures. It just doesn't drive behavior. When we communicate from the inside out, we're talking directly to the part of the brain that controls behavior, and then we allow people to rationalize it with the tangible things we say and do. This is where gut decisions come from. You know, sometimes you can give somebody all the facts and your figures and they say, I know what all the facts and details say, but it just doesn't feel right. Why would we use that verb? It doesn't feel right, because the part of the brain that controls decision-making doesn't control language. And the best we can muster up is, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. Or sometimes you say you're leading with your heart or you're leading with your soul. Well, I hate to break it to you, those aren't other body parts controlling your behavior. It's all happening here in your limbic brain, the part of the brain that controls decision-making and not language. But if you don't know why you do what you do, and people respond to why you do what you do, then how will you ever get people to vote for you or buy something from you, or more importantly, be loyal and want to be a part of what it is that you do?
That's amazing. Please share the video link here. This is the short one that we just watched. And this is the full length for 20 minutes. It's complex. It's eye-opening. It really makes you rethink. You're going to have to watch it 1 or 2 times longer, especially the longer version. Sit back and listen to it. But it leans very strongly to your purpose tribe. As I said, what gets you up in the morning? What gets you motivated? Now, even the most mundane of employees that work in a production line, that come every day, 8 to 5, they're packing, they're filling, a very robotic action. How can you do a job that mundane, day in, day out? What motivates you? What gives you a purpose in life? And even that person has a purpose in life. They want to put food on the table. They want to put a roof over their head. They want to educate their children. They want to give them a better opportunity, give their entire family, their immediate family, their wife, their children a better opportunity. When you are able to identify your purpose, your reason, you then understand that a job is a means to achieving that goal. And you no longer form an attachment with the job, because you realize you have an end goal and the job has got to facilitate achieving that. When it's not, you step back and you say, I don't need this. It's not helping me. And you take it on and you move on to the next one that's going to get you to your end goal. So importantly is to understand what's your purpose tribe, what drives you, what gets you up in the morning, and what pushes you to get going. That there is your goal. That's your purpose tribe. One aspect. The second aspect is his understanding of the golden circle and the way he reverse engineered the Apple sales pitch was unbelievable. And if you can understand that concept and start to study that concept and apply that concept, I can only imagine how fantastic that's going to be. Okay. Let's see this one. So how good are you? How good are you? All right, so I need one volunteer. Please put up a hand. Let's start with the first volunteer. Who can volunteer? Someone put up their hand. I need a volunteer. Swing my headset back on. Come, someone volunteer. Take a chance. Let's see how good a leader you are. Nagib, thank you, Nagib. Nagib Rehman. Right, so you up for question 1, Nagib. So we've assembled a hypothetical team that you're going to lead. Now, based on the COVID-19 pandemic, we had the great attrition where workers packed up and walked out because management was not in focus with the labor. So let's see how good decisions you have based on the COVID pandemic. So do the staff stay or do the staff leave? So here's the first question for you, Nagib. How do you show your appreciation? The team you lead is working hard on a challenging project, and a trusted colleague tells you the team is really going the extra mile, and I'm worried about morale. Can we reward them somehow? In response, do you send them personalized thank you gifts, or do you announce a team-wide thank you bonus? What's your decision, Nagib?
Team-wide thank you bonus.
Ouch, they leave. Some of your team have quit. Bonuses and compensation matter a lot to employees, but money alone may not be enough to retain your team members. Remember, we into the COVID pandemic. We were speaking about this earlier, that the original benefits don't really apply in this situation. Our employees are looking for more than those monetary benefits. So keep that in your mind. Okay, thank you, Nagib. Thank you for playing with me. Can I get the next volunteer? Question 2. Who would volunteer? I've got Michael. Brilliant, Michael. Thank you. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so how do you improve your team's well-being? Because your people are depleted and at a risk of burnout, you want to ensure they have adequate time to re-energize and unplug from work. In response, do you give everyone a week of extra paid time off? Wow. Or do you close the office for regularly scheduled recharging days? That's a challenging one. Okay, which way do you go?
Just go back to it, could you?
Give everyone a week off of extra paid time off, or do we close the office for regularly scheduled recharging days?
I would say close the office off.
Oh, nice. They stayed. Nice job. You retained your team. Offering more time signals to your employees that you care about their well-being and generally want them to rest. Having everyone on break at the same time is a great way to prioritize the team's mental health and well-being. By eliminating the pressure on people to answer work requests when they're out of the office, you'll improve the odds that they can truly unplug and re-energize. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for participating. Can I get another volunteer? Number 3, I need another volunteer. Osama Bazaid. Hi, Osama. Thank you. Okay, we're into question 3. So how do you provide inclusive career opportunities? Some of your best employees are due a promotion, but they lack the skills for or interest in taking on these managerial responsibilities that the new role would entail. In response, you promote them to manager positions and you offer leadership training, or you offer a raise and expanded responsibilities without leadership responsibilities. What do you decide, Osama?
I will go with option 1, promote them to manager position and offer leadership training.
Ouch, they leave. All right, some of you people have quit now. So an employee's direct boss is critical to job satisfaction and well-being. When burnout risk is high, a newly promoted manager lacking the skills to lead could drive team members to quit. Ensure those you promote to leaders have the necessary skills and abilities. And bear in mind that people management isn't for everyone. It's not everyone's cup of tea. Some people can be very productive and find meaning in other roles, not necessarily in a leadership role. Thank you, Osama. Thank you for participating. Can I get my final volunteer, number 4? Ouch. Okay, I got a few jumped over here. I think it's George. George, you jumped in first. George, you beat Naimani. Okay, George, you on for it. Let's go. Number 4 over here. How do you accommodate changing work preferences? You want to see the team return from remote work in some form, but you also want to allow employees to have plenty of flexibility when it's safe to do so. Do you establish and discuss with the team the guidelines for in-person work, or do you assign several days per week for collaborative work in the office? What do you say, George?
I'd go with the first option.
Establish and discuss with the team the guidelines for in-person work. Excellent. They stay. Nice job. You retained your team. In our survey, work-life balance was the most important factor for employees planning to stay in a job, and the ability to work remotely ranked in the bottom quartile because it's no longer viewed as a perk but as a routine. Flexibility, the key to work-life balance, goes beyond where people work to encompass when and how they work. So it's important to listen to employees to understand their needs and then develop guidelines and norms for when and why in-person work is critical. So it was a 50-50 run. We ran through a 50-50 side. Some left, some stayed. Not bad, not bad at all. Good leadership. Most of the decisions I would have taken myself. So here are some good characteristics in servant leaders. It's active listening. So active listening is a very specific skill. Naimani, are you still wanting to chat?
Yeah, I dropped my hand, but I want to comment on the previous question. This is related to this kind of staff cannot leave because they have no jobs to leave. So they may stay, but they may not deliver effectively. I know the exercise is just an exercise, but in reality, people may not leave. Some of them may leave, of course, leave the organization or move to another department, but it may have an impact that performance and the efficiency will drop down.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, definitely agree. Nice one. All right, so active listening is a big part of servant leadership. Listening to every team member actively gives you new perspectives. So active listening is when you listen and then you reiterate what they were talking about so that they understand that you are participating in the conversation and that you're an active member of the conversation. You're not just sitting there making, yes. Okay, now thank you. Definitely we'll consider that. Thank you. It's a brush off. Instead, you are actively participating in the conversation. Then empathy. Big one over here is Atticus Finch in Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird. She just passed away in the last year or so. To Kill a Mockingbird. Within this book and in the following movie franchise that came out, Atticus Finch is the lawyer, and they're looking at Boo, and his daughter asks him, do you think that Boo is guilty? Boo is a handicapped person that is being charged with this murder, and Atticus is defending him. And she turns around and he turns around and tells his daughter, You can never understand someone unless you understand their point of view. Climb in that person's skin or stand and walk in that person's shoes. So these are strong factors to have. Self-awareness. It allows a servant leader to be able to view situation from an interconnected, balanced point of view. Self-awareness gives you the ability to analyze and make decisions objectively. And then positive influence. You positively influence the staff. You're caring. Assessment. Assessment falls under control. You implement. You watch the progress. Make the review. Do feedback. Proceed again. Visionary. Servant leaders are visionary. They are quick to find the weak links in the organization. They believe in the fact that everyone has potential and therefore they push them to boost their recessive traits. They believe in empowering the team together to create better results. Supervision. They give clarity to the ongoing work processes and they take the right measures to overcome any challenges. They actively participate in strategies and programs to achieve individual, team, and organizational goals. They have a deep commitment and they drive this type of work environment that fuels that type of energy. They build a community. Why is it important to build a healthy relationship with our team members? Good relationships build the community and they improve the performance of the organization. Human resources are not enough if you do not know how to utilize their true potential. And one right way to do that is to start a close community that looks after each other. So you don't want this one with guns and knives out. That's what it's telling you. You don't want an organization where all the employees have guns and knives out and they want to kill each other. So it's a highly competitive environment. Each one is at each other's throat. No. In a servant leadership idea, it's a supportive community. Everybody is in harmony. They live in peace. They believe that it is people who keep the boat sailing, and it is they that can overcome these storms that the sea brings. There's some good examples that come out of here. And we come up with the final one, leader-member exchange or LMX theory. Now, this theory proposes that the type of relationship leaders have with their followers is the key to understanding how leaders influence employees. So under this theory, leaders form different types of relationships with their employees. In high quality relationships, the leader forms a trust-based relationship with the member, and the leader and the member like each other. And due to this, they are ready to go above and beyond their job description to promote the other's ability to succeed. Now, in low quality relationships, the leader and the member have low levels of trust, liking, and respect towards each other. In other words, the member does his job, the leader provides rewards and punishments, and the relationship does not involve high levels of loyalty or obligation towards each other. So with your work experience, you've noticed these kind of relationships that develop, and you see how these leader-member relationships promote these employees. They get given the best of opportunities, they grow, they take off, and where the poor or the low relationship exists, it just isn't happening for them. So being in this relationship is advantageous because a high quality relationship is going to be a buffer against a whole range of things within the organization. But again, we have the bias. We have the strong bias because it's a personality-based style. And there's this mutual liking and relationship that develops. So this is what the scale looks like. And you answer the following questions using 1, not at all, 2, somewhat, 3, fully agree. So I like my supervisor very much as a person. And you press 3, 2, 1. And you can go through the scale. And now it takes the scoring in groups. So you see there's a gap over here. It's left that line blank for a specific reason. So it divides these into groups, 4 quarters. They divide it into 4 quarters. And then each quarter gives you a different rating. So you can rank your rating with your manager, your direct line manager, see how good a high quality relationship do you have with them. So low quality exchange is that employees may not have access to the positive work environment that's available to the high LMX members. And they're going to feel that their situation is unfair, they've been done by. And that typically does happen. High LMX employees are going to succeed. They're given a lot of opportunity. They're put into different situations. The low guys don't get those opportunities. They're not given a chance, and they pretty much shut down. So despite its negative consequences, all employees generally are looking for a high relationship. But given a human nature, by association, certain relationships do not gel. So what LMX theory implies for leaders is that one way of influencing employees is through the types of relationships leaders form with their subordinate. These relationships develop naturally through the work-related and personal interaction between the manager and the employee. In the worst cases, they have the potential to create an environment characterized by fairness, favoritism, and unfairness. Okay, so that brings us to the end of that there. Yes, they can. They can expose. But it's meant to keep it anonymous. It's meant to keep it anonymous. It should be a personal understanding of where they stand. So you can run it, but they do not share the results. The results are their own self-reflection. It's a self-reflecting exercise. The leader membership, the LMX survey, is a self-reflective exercise. So the employee carries it out. They identify high or low. There is all the explanations associated with that. And they can now look at opportunities as to how to develop that. Number one opportunity, confront it. Confront it head on. Go and sit down with the manager. Have another person present as a witness to assist in the process. Maybe bring their manager into place or assistant manager into place and say, okay, so we have some challenges. Obviously, I'm not meeting some of your expectations. Naturally, vice versa, you're not meeting some of my expectation. And I believe I've got a long-term future in this organization, despite what the impressions might be. But my ultimate goal is I want to remain with the organization. And in order for me to achieve that, I need you to facilitate opportunities for me to grow, expand, and continue to be part of the organization, especially their growth trajectory. Now, somehow you feel I'm not meeting some of those obligations. Rather than us developing an antagonistic attitude towards it, let's get together and let's resolve this. How can I improve myself? Where can I find out a better way to come around this? What do you expect of me? What are the expectations I'm not achieving? That kind of a rat-a-tat, open, transparent, reflective, hardcore, hard-hitting, no no defensive attitudes, no grudges, being able to be open and say it straightforward. Listen, you don't show a commitment, regardless of the work that's going on, you're the clock watcher. Exactly 4 p.m., you're the first one out the door, regardless of what project is going on, regardless of the criticality of the situation. When we get late work that comes in and we need a late push, and we can send an email out and we say, guys, can you please take an hour extra and push this out? We'll negotiate it next week. We'll give you an hour leave on a Friday or whatever, but we need this done now. You respond, I've left my laptop at work, and these are my personal family hours. So you can come up with all sorts of situations, but that's the idea behind the survey. It will dig deep, and it will dig and resolve it, or come up with a situation where no resolution. Pack your bags, time to find somewhere else. But it will work, and it's important that it's run. Okay, so we looked at this here as well, power and leadership influence. There's reward power, coercive power. Reward power, where you reward the individual. Coercive power, is when you coerce the person. So it's a kind of threat. You threaten the person. Legitimate power, you've been appointed as the manager. You've been appointed as the director, general manager, head of department, whatever. You have a legitimate power. Referent power is where people assume that you have a position of authority. There's an assumption that you have a position of authority. And the reason that that becomes an assumption is by your association. So because you are seen with the director every day, they see you walking with him, they see you chatting with him, he comes, he pops in to see you, discuss, move away. They believe that you have a certain power by means of your association. That's a referent power. And then an expert power is based on your expert knowledge, either your technical skills or your academic skills. You're believed to have an expert power. So based on that, people will believe and follow you. Leadership and ethics. I think at the corporate level, quite a bit of ethics walks out the door. Quite frankly, it does over time. It does push out the door, but there are various ethics that leaders can follow. Okay, so like we had the Ohio study and the Michigan study, and then we had the Path Gold study. These are all big research studies that were carried out and then heavily researched and done. The modern one of that there is the Globe study. The Globe study is a recent one, and it's a uniquely large-scale study of cultural practices, leadership ideal, generalized and interpersonal trust. It's ongoing. It's ongoing, not that it's finished. It's in progress. So this is the latest research. It's carried out in 150 countries. That's why it's called the Globe. And it consists of nearly 500 researchers. How they're all going to collaborate and come up with one leadership theory, I have no understanding of that, but there are 500 researchers. Now you can see it's covered, it excludes Donald Trump's Greenland, but it's chasing Canada, United States, Brazil, quite a big chunk of Africa. These are the Great Lake regions there. Russia, Australia. So you have a big part of it taking this through. They've been running for a few years now, quite a few years. You can see almost 20 years. There are a few publications that have come out so far. I can share one of these books. I think I do have them. You can look at one of these books here. They've got quite a few of these books that are out. There's quite a few publications, as I say, 500 researchers that are part of this research project, and they are publishing their works. And I have a copy of that book. Give me a second. I will bring it up for you. I do have a copy of that one. Leadership strategy and strategic leadership management. There's leadership reading books. Oh, here we go. Okay. Now I'll check for it and I'll get it out for you. I do have that book for. I'm trying to see now. There's a lot of books here. Okay, but I do have a copy of that book somewhere. I'll find a copy and I'll send that with you. So there are 6 culturally endorsed leadership theory dimensions under the GLOBE study. They include charismatic, value-based style, the team-oriented style, the participative style, the humane style, a self-protective style, and the autonomous style. So you can see they're already starting to form. I'm not sharing my screen.
Yeah.
I'm sharing my screen. Thank you. So they already got 6 styles that have come out from the research. The charismatic style, a team-oriented style, a participative style, and the humane style, and the self-protective style, and the autonomous style. So those are 6 that are out from the GLOBE Leadership Research Project. So can leadership behaviors be taught? Well, there are key qualities and indicators of leaders' potential and effectiveness. So emotional intelligence, knowledge, and social skills. Their ability to assess environmental changes and trends, gain respect from followers, and effective interpersonal dialogues. So at the end of the day, we have to accept that leadership isn't everybody's cup of tea. But in saying that, we got to identify that there are other roles where they can contribute to the organization and be very successful. How do you develop the skills for effective leadership? The number 1 priority is a dedication to lifelong learning, careful cultivation, opportunity to lead, formal development, and unique natural abilities. So that brings us to the fundamental debate. Yeah, I know that there, Naimon. So this brings us to the fundamental debate. Where do we stand? Do you believe you can teach leadership skills, or do you believe it's genetic, you're born with them? Let's see. Answer. Born or taught? You'll type born or taught. What do you think? Is a leader born or is a leader taught? It can be influenced, but are you born or can you be taught? No, Osama, don't sit on the fence. You have to decide on one. Michael Bourne. Or someone says, okay. Naimani2 says Bourne. George says it can be taught. Okay. Anyone else agree with George? And how can it be taught is that if you give a person an opportunity, and if they're repeatedly given that opportunity, they can develop those leadership skills. But inherently, there has to be some sort of genetic background to that. I personally believe that my personal opinion is it's the flight or fight response. The flight or fight. Either the person runs away from a fight or the person stands up to fight. That's my identification of a leader. How they respond. Flight, they pack their bags and they're the first one out the door. Fight, they will stand up and take charge. So given a critical situation, that fight or flight response has got to kick in. And in those situations is when you'll identify the most potential leader. People with the potential to be leaders. They'll take charge. They'll stand up and they'll take it on. So if we're going through what George said is to be taught, then if you're learning leadership skills, you need hard skills and soft skills. Soft skills are interpersonal skills, communicating effectively, active listening, conflict resolution, negotiation skills, problem solving, decision making, and facilitation. There are various management styles. I don't even think that slide covers any of them properly. I've been accused of having a soft management style, which is still getting the work done, but very supportive of employees. You have a hard management style where they lead by the stick. They stand with the stick and they're going to beat it out of you and get the work done. Soft employee style, they want to motivate, push the employees, intrinsic motivation, let the employees feel needed, let them feel wanted, and drive it up that way. There are various management styles, task-based style. So management styles, it's again, very situational dependent. Amidst crisis, we need a decisive leader. You need to discern the need for an immediate decision and have the fortitude to execute it in a manner that temporarily may require an authoritative style. At that instant, you have to bark and give instructions. And you have to make sure that it's followed. Why? Because you believe you can resolve that situation. So a good example is given over here is the Titanic and the bad decisions that were taken in the Titanic. The various captains over here that were involved in the Titanic, as well as the ships that responded in the vicinity to the rescue of the passengers from the Titanic. Okay, any questions? No question. So the pointed thing is that look at your organization, your sector and your employees, and then you'll select a specific leadership theory 1 and a leadership theory 2, as well as you would recommend the most suited leadership style for your organization. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. I just want to see. Got a better answer to that there. Oh, let's go and see leadership style. Yeah, right, I have it down. Okay, so what happened here? Right. Under the first leadership theory, you name the leadership theory, you put an analysis down, why is it a good fit to your organization or sector? Leadership theory, you name the leadership, you put an analysis down, and why is it a good fit to your organization or sector? And then based on your analysis, you then recommend the most suited leadership style for your organization by explaining why and how it can help your organization. So that's number 4, the role of leadership. You want to take a screenshot? I've also got all those articles. Naimani, let me just check. Why is that there, Naimani? Oh, wow. Okay, so you're not on the list over here. Naimani, please give me your email. You're not on the mailing list here.
At the beginning of this course, I received your email. Then later on, for the last 3 sessions, I haven't received.
Now you're on here. Sultan SS Naimani at pdo.co.om.
Yes.
All right, please check if it hasn't gone to your junk email. I'll send it again.
Okay, please.
I will send it again, but you're on the mailing list. I found you now. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right, guys. So I've shared those links with you for the COVID leadership as well. I'll copy them again in the weekly email. And we've seen from that there that the transactional leadership style, very good. And the servant leadership style, very good for the COVID situation. Transactional leadership to bring organization and structure back to the chaos. Servant leadership to be understanding to the situation and still give the positive influence to everyone. Some might say transactional and charismatic, also good combinations. You're able to influence and lead the organization through a troubled period. Very good combination as well. So 2 leadership styles can be transactional and charismatic. We can easily marry those 2 together. As I said, transactional and servant. You got to look to see which one it is. You can take the Hershey Blanchard situational model, which has the different situations of high motivation, medium motivation, low motivation. Use that together with the transactional one. Run that through. That is very task-oriented, goal-oriented focus. So there are some good combinations out there that you've seen now, and you can follow through with them. All right. Brilliant. I'll share your email out tomorrow. And we're going to get a big activity next week. Come in a little early to class, and we'll run this activity We'll run this activity a little bit earlier. It's an activity on leadership that we'll run. I've got a leadership activity. We'll try and get that activity done in time. All right, good night. I'll see you on Monday. What are we on? The last week? Yeah, last week, next week, lesson 4. Week 4. There'll be lesson 7 and 8. Wow. All right, brilliant. Thank you very much. I'll see you on Monday. Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye. Thank you. Thank you. Good night. Thank you. Good night. I'm going to end the lesson. Thank you.